Welcome, everybody. I'm Shake Silikian, and I own my own consultancy. And over the past year, I have enjoyed doing these live conversations with amazing people in my network who have different professional experiences and expertise. And we talk all things related to being a human and working. Lots of different topics related to that. Today, I'm very excited to welcome my friend Anna to the conversation. Couple of housekeeping things before we start our amazing conversation. For the audience, just welcome, and please know that there is about a 20-second delay. We're using Restream to stream this on 3 different platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So there is a slight delay. So we will monitor the chat, but if we don't get to your question right away, please be patient with us. Um, I also wanted to let you know that we know some of you are watching this live and others will be watching the replay at some point. We will continue to monitor the chats and respond to your comments. So please feel free to add comments. Let us know what's resonating with you. What are other topics that you want me to cover in the future? I welcome that as well. And thanks again for being here with us. For those of you who are live right now, please drop a comment in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from, whether it's your home office or, Dallas, Texas. I leave it up to you to decide what detail you want to share. With that, I am very excited for today's conversations focus on tips and strategies for taking charge of your career path. I think we often go into professional lives thinking if we do certain things, other things will happen, people will notice. And sometimes we are not driving our own career journey, and we are more the front seat passenger and leaving the company or our manager or others in our life to be the driver. So today's conversation with Anna Dapelo-Garcia is about how we can take charge and be in that driver's seat for our conversation. Anna, welcome. I'm really excited to have you joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love the title, Taking Charge. And the reason for that is Lean In Latinas. I'm the founder and president. It's actually part of the Lean In organization. And we just had our annual conference on August the 15th, and it's called Take Charge. So it's really an opportunity for people to either take charge personally or professionally. And that can mean really different things to different people. Sometimes taking charge is just maybe I'm going to start to speak up more in meetings. Taking charge can be I'm going to completely overhaul my career, or taking charge is I'm going to take those daily walks that I keep talking about that I don't do. So we're very intentional about what that could mean for each person. So thank you so much because I'm going to totally lean into that today.
That's fabulous. And it's a great way to start our conversation. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for creating Lean In Latinas. I've had the privilege of participating in some of your activities and attending the conference in the past. What an incredible effort that you started, and how it's grown is so enlightening and heartening and inspiring to watch. So thank you for doing that and creating that space for women. You talked
Oh,
about different ways we can take charge of our lives, right, and be intentional. Are there specific frameworks or tools you've used in the past or have recommendations for your employees or your colleagues as they explore how they can lean into their values and take charge of their life?
yeah, I think most of us know some of those common tools. It's either You hear executives talk about we need to develop our 3-year strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan. Um, and actually, you don't have to be an executive to do that. You could be really in any part of your career, and you could even do a 1-year plan. But many of those plans, as we know, have sort of those common characteristics. What are my goals? You hear a lot of people using the term SMART goals. Um, but I think it's really that we know what those tools are. You can go as far as getting a career coach, and career coaches use numerous different types of tools and frameworks. But I think it's really for me at least, it's really what is my passion really pulling me towards. And that's how I even created Lean in Latinas. And here's the funny part. I had no plan. It was a very organic experience. And what I was really leaning into is the difference that I wanted to make in the world and how I wanted to give back. And I thought, I had a really successful sort of climbed to an executive director role in my place of employment. I was actually the first Latina executive director at my place of employment. So I
Wow.
was really focused on climbing that ladder, and I did it the conventional way. But I also, when I got to that place, Shake, I really thought, how am I giving back to my community? And then that's really where Lean in Latina started. But the funny part about it is that I really didn't sit down and develop a 3-year plan or even a 1-year plan. What I was really paying attention to is sort of where my passion was and what was pulling me towards my passion. And once I sort of really understood what that was, it propelled me to where I'm at today with the organization. It's an unbelievable story, to your point earlier.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing and definitely dropping some of the tools, the SWOT or the strategic planning, right? Goal setting.
Right.
Those are things that we can use in our daily lives, not just professional life. Sometimes we think of things, this is what I do professionally, and then we forget about all those things in our personal life. I did want to
Yeah.
say you have, I think, Lean In Latinas, a fan and a member. Rosa is joining us from Walnut Creek. Hi, Rosa,
Oh, hi.
thanks for joining us. So, if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like your career path after building a career and going the traditional career ladder within a health system, or you leaned into what drove you and what was putting fuel in your tank. Is that correct?
I spent many years doing the thing, which is, how do I get to that next level? How do I get to a position where I can live comfortably here in the Bay Area? We know the cost of living is really high. And I did that, but I got to a place, and it wasn't like I planned it, Shake. I just got to a place where I thought it's time for me now to give back, but I really didn't know how. And also was right around that same time that I found out about a post that went viral by an author and an artist by the name of Elle Luna. And she's actually here in the Bay Area. She did a post on Medium called The Crossroads of Should and Must. And
Okay.
it actually turned into a book because it was a very successful post. And really, the premise there for with her perspective was that, if you have job that equals career that equals the calling, whatever your calling is, that's when you're really truly at balance. So I really had to lean in and say, okay, are all those categories in alignment for me? And it wasn't. And so I really started to hone into, well, what is my calling? What is that? And that's a hard question to answer. And I don't think I could have answered that in my 20s or my 30s at all. Actually, I'm going to correct myself. Yes, I could have answered it. And my calling was I wanted to move up the career ladder, but to also recognize that you can deviate from that, in different parts of your life. But I really, till this day, I really look at that sort of formula, I'll call it, to really drive and help people that I mentor and talk to. Like, what do you think your calling is? And does your job and career sort of align to that? And that can be a really hard question.
Absolutely. I too had that very strong opinion about what I was going to be. I really wanted to be a judge, and law
Ah.
school judge. I am judgy, yeah, sometimes, but
Yeah.
certainly not a judge. But I think that deviation sometimes that can shake us to the core, right?
Yeah.
To say,
Yeah.
I've tried this, and it wasn't until I was interning with a law firm that I realized this is not it at all.
Right.
And during the time I would have gone through law school, there was a sense, I don't know if this is still true, but there was a
Mhm.
sense of, we break you down and build you into an attorney. And at
Oh.
that point, I felt I am really happy with who I am and how I contribute to the world, and
Yeah.
the ways I show up and stand up for the marginalized communities and stand up for people who may not have a voice. I don't want to lose those pieces. If that means becoming a lawyer, then I want no part of it. Right.
Right.
And um, I don't know what gave me that chutzpah to be able to say that. But I think it was shocking to all of the sudden say, this is a path I've been thinking about for as long as I can remember. And now
Yeah.
I want to do something different, and navigating that. I also did want to mention there are a couple of other folks, and Patricia from Switzerland said,
Ah.
couldn't agree more with the mantra on how to pay it forward. I have done the same. Um, and a good Latinas, founding Good Latinas for Good. Excited
Oh,
to be here.
wonderful.
So fabulous. Thank you, Patricia. And hello, Isabel. Good to see you as well.
Yeah. Nice.
So, Anna, I wanted to ask you, once we realize, oh, maybe this isn't a straight road, maybe there are twists and turns that I have to take, how do we figure out what skills we need to build? Do you have any thoughts on that or advice on that?
Resilience is a big one. There will be those twists and turns, and at least that's been my experience. And if you don't build that resilience within yourself, it's very difficult to go through that. So really, how do you do that? I think is probably the question. Like, you know, where's your circle's strength? And really, I think that's, again, I'll sort of talk about sort of the Lean In organization around the power of circles. And circles exist in over 180 countries across the globe. Over 100,000 women have created these circles. So it's really, I can't advocate enough. And and many people have their own circles right now. It could be my circle includes my partner. It includes my family members, and this is where I gain my strength. But um, you know, the workplace doesn't sort of stop and end for people. It sort of gets into your personal life, into your role as a parent or as a mother, or a partner. So I think it's really like surrounding yourself with, because you're going to need that strength, because it's inevitable that your career will have those ups and downs and those twists and turns, depending on who you work for, where you work. So there's a lot of factors, and I've been in the work environment for a number of decades, so I can speak from my personal experience. And I found that the more I work on my own, to your point, skill sets, and a lot of it is around resilience, and it's really around perspective, I think, and to accept that that's going to be part of the journey, and to, rather than using a lot of energy to sort of push it away, is to welcome in whatever is happening. And it's not easy. There's times where it can be really frustrating, but I try to take those times, Shake, to ask myself, what is this trying to teach me?
Mm.
What am I learning more about myself? And so I really think they end up really being growth opportunities. We often hear people say, "Oh, well, I want to talk to that person because they're very wise." Well, getting to that point is going through those trials and tribulations, and really learning how you can deal with it, because it's inevitable that they're going to happen.
Yeah. To go back to the analogy of using the roadmap, right, on a road trip in a car, I often think about, and as a parent, I have a 13-year-old, and sometimes my natural inclination is to try and create shortcuts for my son to for the lessons, because I've gone through those lessons. But the reality I find is we have to experience some of the heartbreaks and the mistakes ourselves, right? There is no time
Yes.
machine that propels us forward. There is no black hole that we go into and come out on a different side on our road trip. We just have to make that journey, and the
Yes.
exits and on ramps and all the glory of it also,
Oh,
right?
yes. Yes.
Um,
Absolutely correct. You know, I love where I'm at sort of mentally as I've gotten older. Physically, that's a different story.
yes.
But if I had any sort of these pearls of wisdom when I was in my 20s and 30s, but that's not the process. The process is what you're describing. And we could be good stewards and really trying to, share our learnings with emerging professionals, but you're right. Some folks have to go through their own experiences.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. I want to invite our audience to ask us questions or
Yeah.
provide additional information. But before we go there, and to give them a little bit of time about taking charge of one's career, I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So quick answers, whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Um, what is one book you think every professional should read?
Yeah, I really loved reading The Leader Within You by John C. Maxwell.
Mhm.
Because I always wanted to be a manager, so that one really helped me understand the dynamics of leadership.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what about one skill that you think is a game changer for career growth?
I think just having adaptable to change. You have to really be adaptable to change, and change could be a different career, a different boss, a different employer is really being able to adapt to change. And I think that can really help get through those transitions that you have in your work life.
Um, I appreciate that. I'm going to put a pin on the change conversation for a
Yeah.
second, and but I want to circle back to that.
Yeah.
What's your advice for dealing with a professional setback?
Again, what is it trying to teach you? And why do you see it as a setback? I think that's the question. Why do I see this situation as a setback? And how do I turn this around to this is a learning opportunity? And so I'll ask myself, what is this trying to teach me about myself? And how can I maybe deal with this differently if it should happen again?
Absolutely. One comment Maria asked, can
Mhm.
you repeat the Medium post that evolved into a book?
Yes, it's called The Crossroads of Should and Must, and it's by Elle Luna. So if you go on the internet now, you'll find the post, and then she has the book.
Fabulous. And
Yeah.
I'll add that to the comments afterwards. I produce my own live stream, so I'm unable to do that, um, multitasking live, because I want to be here with Anna and
Well,
this
I give you an A
conversation.
plus. I give you an A plus.
Thank you. What's the best way to get noticed by senior leadership, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness, that's good. Well, I would say always put your hand up, especially for those projects that maybe people don't want to do. It's those hard projects. Get the job done. I remember watching a conversation that was with President Obama, and he said, and they asked him, a similar question, and he said, just get the work done, get the job done. People want results. And if you can execute and get results, that will get people's attention.
I love that. And I think we covered this one already, but just in case you have something else to add, what's
Yeah.
the single most important trait of a career driver, right? Not somebody who's sitting in any of the other seats in the car.
You can't be afraid to make a mistake. You just go for it. And that's exactly what happened with Lean and Latinas. When I signed up to be a nonprofit, I had no idea how to run a nonprofit. I signed it and I thought, I don't know what I just did, but I know what I want to do. I know where my passion is going. You have to be a little fearless. But I would also say when it comes to people dynamics, you have to treasure your connections. And even if you have differences with people, you have to remember the end game is to preserve those relationships. So really, being really mindful about your network and the people that you partner with is to really treasure that, because those people can open doors for you that may have never been opened.
Such an important reminder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Again, I welcome other questions from the audience. We love making this relevant for you. So ask questions, but as we wait for additional ones, let's circle back to the change conversation you
Sure.
mentioned. I know some of us like to say we love change, but it's often when we are the ones in charge of the change and can dictate it exactly to the T what the change looks like. Can you think of safe ways or ways we can practice becoming more comfortable with change on a daily basis, maybe even in our personal life before we bring it into our professional one?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I can sort of get stuck in my ways. Um, I would say I tell myself this. It's not like I'm, some person coming talking from a higher top or anything like that. Um, but even, as you have to be open to change. You have to welcome it. And it may and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the trick. You got to get comfortable with that. The world is moving at a very fast pace, and it has for many years. And you're either going to move with it or you're going to be left behind. And so, whether it's a change in new administration, a new boss, it's really, how can I adapt to this change and focus my energies and attention somewhere else than to get fixated on whatever this change is, because that can really be a time sink, in my opinion. So especially in the workplace, whether when I get a new boss, I erase everything from my prior boss, everything. I don't care if my prior boss always gave me these couple days off, always let me do, it doesn't matter anymore. I have a new boss now, and I just need to be open to what is going to be different and to know when you're in control and to know when you're not in control.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of times you are not in control. And so you have a decision to make. You're either going to say, I'm going to embrace this change and move on, or I'm going to get stuck. And when you get stuck, you don't go anywhere. And actually, I think it's very detrimental to any potential career progression that you might have had. And just know people who can adapt to change are the ones that are moving forward.
Absolutely. I think there are a number of statistics around how fast change is happening right now compared to any other time in the history of the world, as far as we've been documenting it, right? So who
Right.
knows? I
Yeah.
understand history books are flawed too, but I think it's happening quickly. And so I have a silly, funny example of how I've tried to get myself out of my head. I actually started taking improv classes
Oh,
because I have no control over where things are going to go. Right.
right.
So for 7 weeks, I had taken chapter one, which is a beginner improv
Mhm.
class. And I realized that if I come into a scene with preconceived notions about what that was going to be like, it was a flop.
Yeah.
Showing up with that blank slate, like you mentioned, and being curious and supportive of my fellow actors, improvisers on the stage and the game, etc. is when it was fun and successful and
Mhm.
not stinted. Otherwise, if I went in, I got stuck. I literally got stuck in the scenes because I was like, none of the, no, they're all doing it wrong. This is not supposed to be this. And obviously, I wasn't being a good
Yeah.
partner. But I certainly appreciate that stuck feeling, right? That can come about.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So,
Okay.
you mentioned supervisors and bosses, and we have a little more time. What's the best way for someone to approach a conversation with their manager about their career goals and desire for growth opportunities?
Well, that can be a tricky one too. Most people know if they have a boss that will be receptive to that type of conversation. And sometimes, unfortunately, in your career, you're not going to have that boss who's receptive to that or who is genuinely interested in your career growth or your success. And that's just the way it works. You're going to have some bosses. So sometimes, it can be easier than other times, but regardless of that, um, you have to speak up. And I also believe in planting seeds and not to expect, somebody to want to stop everything they're doing. But I think it's important to plant seeds with people, even though you're not may not be sure what they're going to do with that um, information. Um, so, there are a lot of variables. I've had bosses who I've planted those seeds and I got to that next level or I got to that position. And I've had bosses where that didn't happen.
Mhm.
But I think that's just the way the world works. Not everybody's going to be excited about what you're excited about. and that is, and when you do have those bosses who are not just receptive, but who are right there next to you, really wanting to contribute to your success, just really enjoy those moments. And those bosses are not forever. But when you have those bosses, I would say really take that opportunity to partner with them. And just know it's not always going to happen with every boss.
Thank you. I appreciate that candor because sometimes people feel like, well, every supervisor should feel this way, and it's not a cookie cutter, right?
No.
And some are great supervisors, some are not. Sometimes we learn how to be a better supervisor because we have a terrible one, and that's
Yes.
the truth, right? Um,
Yes.
what you're saying aligns with Isabel asked the question, how do you find a new mentor when your mentor has passed? I have great connections, but those are different than a trusted mentor that trusts and supports your judgment.
Yeah. Mentors, they're special people. You could have programs at work where they assign you a mentor, and I think that's fine. I think that's great. But it's those mentors who really, really want to see you succeed. Those are the difference makers. Um, and it really is what you're hoping that mentor, you have to be really clear what you're expecting from that mentor. Some people will ask me to be their mentor, and if I'm not in the environment that they're in, I'm going to have to take a different approach with them. Let me give you an example. And I kind of use sports analogies a lot. Why? I don't know, because I don't really like it. I don't really like sports. So why I do that, I have no clue. But think about a football coach, right? And they see their players on the field, they can give immediate feedback. They can, throw the ball hard, do whatever, and they see them on the field. And they're a great mentor, having them maybe be a better player. But if I'm in a situation where I don't see the person on the field, I'll say, "Hey, I don't see you on the field." So that's going to be a bit of a disadvantage to me. But let's talk about goals that you might have, like public speaking, things that are measurable, things that we can track towards progress. So it really comes down to is what are you hoping for with this mentor? And is that person the right person to be the mentor for the goals and objectives that you have? So I think it's really aligning what you're expecting from this person with that person. Does this is what I'm hoping for. Can you help me with this? Um, but I've had and to have always have mentors and diversity among mentors. It could be
Mhm.
generational diversity, role diversity, um, and have more than one. I would say, but really be clear about what you're expecting from this person.
Yeah. Thank you. And Isabel, if you go to my events page, I did do a session about mentoring, but it was more about how to create better mentoring relationships. So you might want to check that out
Yeah.
as well. Um, I I think the clarity is so important, right? And I so appreciate Anna you saying that it's important for the mentor to have opportunities, at least the way you like to mentor, to have opportunities to observe that individual rather than through hearsay offer advice. Right? That's great as well, but for some of us, that's not as fulfilling or real. I get a sense that you're a great feedback provider because you're providing specific feedback rather than generic. You should do X. You're like, you did this really well. Here is where you can fine
Yeah.
tune it a little bit,
Right.
right? Which is the perfect type of
Right.
feedback somebody should get. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I am mindful of our time and your time, Anna. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking the time to have this conversation with me. Thank you to the audience for joining us. I'll add some comments to the chat with the resources mentioned. Any final words of wisdom or advice, Anna, from you to our audience before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I would just say throughout the course of your career, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. I would say, just move on, learn, and as we all do throughout our careers, be adaptable to change. So those are the things that I would have wanted to hear.
Fantastic. Here is to giving ourselves grace. Thank you for
Yes.
reminding us of that very important lesson. Thank you again so much, Anna, for your time. I've admired you, and I feel
Oh, thank
so
you, Sean.
honored to call you a friend and to have
Oh,
gotten to
thank you.
know you over time and to welcome you to this conversation today.
Thank
I know
you.
we could probably do a monthly or a weekly conversation, just the two of us, based off
That's
of
right.
all you have to offer to the audience. So please connect with Anna and keep an eye on the amazing things she's
Thank
built
you.
and she's moving forward. And
And thank you. And thank you, Shake, for your time and your investment in doing this work. This is there's a lot of work you have to do for this, and you're doing this just to give to other people. So thank you.
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for other conversations in the future, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your day.